Hey there, how's it going? Welcome to Looplearnings. We are making inventory management system, and this is the next video in the series. What we have done in the past, or in the last video perhaps, is what we have done is we have created a mechanism to fetch the information from the database or the tables and populate it onto the list box. Not only that, we can double click on any of the record and we can create or we can populate perhaps that record onto a form. And then what we have done also is we did VB coding behind the create button to actually create a record into a database. So that was a lot in that one video, which is previous video than this one. So if you're interested, you do watch, because this video is a continuation of the previous video. And in this video, we are going to continue and we are going to do VB coding behind update button. Because right now, if I click, nothing happens. So we do the update VB coding behind this button. Also, we want to make sure that this button is activated as a create customer. And we want to use this button dynamically. And that's very, very important that we put that mechanism in. So there's a lot in this video. We are going to focus on VBA, Recordsets, and the other fantastic stuff. So if you're interested in watching and learning, please make sure that you watch until the end so you get to know the best practices that you can adopt to make your application fantastic. All right. So let's move on and let's get started. But before I do that, I would ask or request that make sure that you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you get notification whenever I upload a new video. So let's go to the customer form right now. As of now, nothing happens if I click on this button. So let's go to the design view and let's select that button. In the property sheet of that button, we'll go to the event tab. And in event tab, we click on event. And we click on ... We go to the code builder, and in here we'll start writing the code. The first thing I like to do is, as I said, we will be using Recordsets. First thing I like to do is set a variable, declare a variable, and then set a variable. And to declare a variable, why do we need to do the declaration of the variable? Well, that's how Microsoft Access recognize a record set. So we need to declare the variable. So anytime we want to declare the variable, we will start with them. All right. Then we will give a name of the variable. So you can give any name, whatever you wish to recognize or to perform that function of the record set. So we'll say RS update. Let's put it simpler, right? RS update. We want to declare the variable and want to declare it as a record set. That's done. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to tell Microsoft Access what does this RS update mean, because as of now, Microsoft Access doesn't know what does the RS update mean. It has created with this line of code the declaration of a variable, but it doesn't know yet. So we need to tell. So we'll say set RS update, okay, equals current DB dot open record set. Now, what does record set means? Record set simply means a table, right, or a query. So in any of these, to whatever you're using, either you're using table or you're using query to manipulate the data or fetch the data, that table or query will be considered as a record set. So I'll open the parenthesis, double quote, and in it, we will tell the name of that record set. So in my case, I'm using table, which is this one, the customers table. So just to avoid any spelling mistake, I'll just right click here, make it rename. And then I'll copy the name of it and I'll go back and I'll paste it right here. So just so I like to do this because sometimes as a human being, we can make mistakes in writing this stuff. So, comma, and we'll say DB open at Dyna set. Okay. And we'll say DB C changes. Okay. That's very, very important. And we'll close the parenthesis. Okay. So with this two line of codes, we have informed Microsoft Access what record set we want to update with this button. Now, before we do the updation in the record set, what we need to do is we need to put some checkpoints. So the first checkpoint is we want to make sure that this form does have a data. And we want to make sure that specifically the unique ID that is in this record set has populated onto this form. And in this case, the unique ID is customer ID. It could be anything, by the way, any of these, if you have set other unique IDs within that table. But usually it's the first column or first set of data is considered as ID. So the customer ID, employee ID, part number, etc., etc. All right. So in this case, we have customer ID. So we want this form to have some data so we can manipulate that data, right? That's logical. That's how it works. If it is empty, we want to throw an error and say, hey, you need to populate some data, and then you can proceed further. So that's what we're going to do. So simply we'll say if NZ, all right, me dot customer ID equals double quote, which means empty, then you'll see empty.beep and throw a message box which says this action cannot be performed as no record is displayed. Right? You can choose to have whatever message box you want to have. Because this is an error, so we'll set it as a critical, comma, double quote, information. Right, that's it. So with this three line of codes, you have set that checkpoint what I was talking about. Another important thing, whenever you open if statement, you must ensure to close the if statement so you don't forget. So we'll say else and say and if. All right. Now in here, we will start writing a code which will actually help us to update the record. Now, we want to make sure one thing, and that is if I'll go to the database or the table, this table has many records. Right now it's just 4 or 5, but in reality, you may have thousands of lines of records. So what you want to make sure that you are pointing out to the correct record that you intend to make the updates to. And as update, now we are referring to that record set number. Remember, we have declared what is our RS update means. So Microsoft Access now knows or aware of what does RS update mean. So every time we put RS update, we're telling Microsoft Access, refer to this table directly. And we'll say dot find first. Okay. So first of all, you find a record which we intend to make changes to. And now Microsoft Access is asking, okay, I will find it out, but what do you want me to find? So we'll say double quote, customer ID equals double quote, ampersand me dot customer ID. Right. Let me just explain, because this is very, very important. And you must ensure that you have this line of code. Otherwise, what will Microsoft Access do? It will locate first row and it will update the changes in that first row. And that may be, not maybe, it will actually record in the record set and making changes. Right. So what is happening here? I want you to pay attention here. Now this customer ID is wrapped with the double quote, and that's because the unique ID in this case is a integer, is a numeric number. So that's why we have to wrap it with the double quote. Or the unique ID is not integer, right? It's a string value, which means the text. Then in that case, what you need to do is you need to. That's how the Microsoft Access will recognize that this unique value is a text, is a string value. It's not a integer value. Well, for us, it's an integer. So I'm going to remove that single quote and I'm going to move ahead with the code. Now, what you've done, you have declared the variable, right? You have declared the variable with this line of code. You have set the variable with this line of code. You have checked whether that record exists with these line of codes. And with this line of code, you are pointing out to this specific record in the record set. I hope you understood. I try to make it simple. And, these are the logical steps in my head, which I'm explaining. We need to make sure that we write a code to update the record. So we'll say RS update, exclamation mark, customer equals me dot customer, right? So what is happening with this line of code is we're telling Microsoft Access that update the customer column with whatever. Maybe we will change the customer name or we'll change the email address. So that should be updated automatically. And then we'll say RS update, exclamation mark, email equals me dot email. All right. Status, it will remain active. Well, if you want to make it inactive, let's say a customer is inactive, you can have another button which will be considered as inactive. Okay. So for now, this is it. The 2 line of codes to update the 2 set of information in the tables and the database. All right. So when we're done that, we need to make sure that we do this. Oh, by the way, I forgot. And how awesome. Not so awesome that I forgot this. What we need to do is rs update dot edit. It's just How can I forget this? Right? Thankfully, I remember. So this is also very important because now we are opening the table in the change mode, in the editable mode with this line of code. And once we have done those changes, what we need to do is we need to rs update dot update. We need to update that record set. And once we do that, we need to close the record set. Remember, this table will be open in the background. No one will see it. It will be like hidden open, but we need to make sure that we close this record set. So we'll say rs dot close, right? And then we'll say set rs update equals nothing. And once we do that, we throw a message box for confirmation to the user that, hey, the record is updated. So how do we do that? Quite simple. Do cmd beep, do cmd or beep, and message box. A customer has been updated. I'll keep it simple. You can change it. All right. And because this is successful, so we'll say we have information and information. All right. I think that's it. That should work. So let's go ahead and test it out. So we'll debug it first. So check if there's any error. Thankfully, there's none. So let's close that. Let's close the database. Let's save it. Now let's open Peter Jackson. And let's say we'll make a change to the email. Right now it's peter.j@email.com. So we'll say peter.jackson@email.com, right? So let's update and say the customer has been updated. Now let's check if the database actually is updated. So we'll go to the customer table and here we go. We can see that the email has been updated. Let's say it was a mistake. We want to return back to peter.j@email.com. So we can do that. Simply double click. And interesting thing here. Now in the database, remember, the email address is peter.jackson@email.com, right? I'll go back here. peter.jackson@email.com. Okay. In the database, that's the email. But in this list box, it is still peter.j. And if I double click, it is showing peter.j, which should not happen. And to avoid that, what we need to do is we need to refresh this list box. When do we refresh this list box? The moment we click on update button and the record is updated in the database, the next thing should happen is this list box should be reflecting those changes. Now, this is the user interface we are creating, right? So we have to look into these teeny tiny things also to make sure that we are updating the correct information and we are populating the correct information that we intend to do so. So let's fix that. I want to make sure that the moment I save or the moment I update here, this gets refreshed and this shows the updated email address. So let's fix that. But before I do that, remember we did a 2 or 3 line of code in which we said, if there's no record, then throw a message box. And if somebody click on update, throw a message box, hey, please populate the record first. So let's check that whether this is working or not. Because right now there's no record. So we should have an error box if I get an update button. So let's click on update. And there you go. This section cannot be performed and no record. It is great. Okay, that's working. Now let's get back to design view and let's fix that. All right. And I'll go back here. And in here behind the update button, I think after the message box here, we'll say forms, because we are referring to the main dashboard form. And in that form, we are referring to the list box. So we'll say forms, exclamation mark, dashboard. That's the name of the form. And exclamation mark, list dot requery. Okay. So what we have done with this line of code, we said, okay, check in the forms, there will be a form called dashboard. All right. And on that form, there is a list box called list. Just requery that list. That's what is happening. So let's test it out whether that was successful or not. So I'll close it. Yes. All right. And I'll close this again. I'll open it. This time we should have the actual email address, which is peter.jackson, which is in the database. So I'll double click here. Now you see it is showing peter.jackson. So remember, we have done that one line of code to update the list box the moment we update the record here. So we'll say, we'll go back to peter.jackson J instead of Jackson, and we'll click on update, and the message box appears. Now, if that line of code is correct, we should see that Peter.Jackson is replaced with Peter.J. So let's click OK, and we got a error, and it says Microsoft Access cannot find the reference form dashboard. Have I done any mistake here? DASHBOARD. All right. So that means the name of the form is incorrect in here. So we have to find that, why the name is incorrect. So let's go to design view. Let's close that. So I'm going to rename it from here. See, the name is dashboard F, the form name. And these are the little things I've been saying in the start when I copied the name of the table. That's what I wanted to demonstrate here. Sometimes you forget. And so I just mentioned dashboard instead of dashboard F. That's why we got the error. Now, we have fixed that. It's a very silly error, to be very honest. I said that before, that it happens quite often. And this happened exactly in this video. So let's go back to manage customers. Now, it did update the record. You can see that here, right? Peter.J. There's a lot happening. So let's get back and we'll say Peter.Jackson. And if the code is correct, it should be replaced with Peter.Jackson here as well. So let's update, and you can see that. See, that change happened. Let's go back to Peter.J, and I update again, and click OK, and you see the change happened again. So this is very, very important. I know there's a silly mistake happen, and that's okay. That's a human being thing. So I mentioned the incorrect name of dashboard, so that's why we got that error. But nothing else is the problem there. Anyway, so let's go to Jackson Raymond just to make sure that, we are checking randomly whether the code is working. So you can see here, Jackson.R should be replaced with Jackson.Raymond. There you go, Jackson.Raymond. We get back to the same record, Jackson.R, and we update it. So this is working perfectly fine. There's no problem whatsoever. Okay, so that's one part of the video. Next, I want to update the caption of the create button. So anytime any of these buttons in the menu is clicked, this button's caption should be changed accordingly. Okay, and that's why I mentioned that this button is going to work dynamically. So let's right click here. It's quite easy though. We'll go to the manage customer button. We'll go to the property on click event, and in here we will change the me.create me.btn. What's the name of this button? Well, we have not set the name of this button, so btn create. All right. So we go here, me.btn create dot caption equals create customer. All right. So we want that caption to be appeared. And I'm going to go to close here. And I think we need to extend the size of this button, and we move it here. Okay. Now let's go back to the form view, and now let's click on manage customer. Notice what happens here when we fetch the information from the database. There you go. It says create customer, and this is exactly we want this to happen. And this is critical because we are using one button, this button, dynamically for all the menus here. Now let's do a VB coding where if the caption is create customer and somebody clicks here, the customer F form should open, and it should open blank to create a new record. So let's go to design view. Let's go to create button, and we'll go to the event tab, on click event, ... code builder. And in here, we'll say if me.btn create.caption equals create customer, then what should be done? Do cmd.open form. What's the form name? Customers. Hey, I'm going to copy it. Just do it. Another silly mistake to happen. All right. So we'll paste in here, and we want that to happen. And let's close that and leave. We're going to add furthermore, line of code behind this button. That will be later on. So let's go to the form view. Let's fetch the data, create customer, and now I click on create customer. We get a form which is blank. I try to create without record. It's giving me error, and now I have to give the name of the customer, Ironman, and the email is Ironman well, just keep it like that. Ironman@email.com. So let's create the record. Okay. So the record is created, but look here, this is not updated. Remember, we have written a line of code which will update the list box. So why it has not created in this case? Well, we have not written that line of code behind the create button. So let's go ahead and do that. So you can see this all live is happening. I'm not cutting it. I'm keeping it just to make sure that, we are human beings. We make these silly things, or we get to know with the progress that, hey, we should do this particular act or particular code we should write in this particular state. So let's go to the create button, event tab, ... And in here, we'll say, hey, you know what? Just to avoid any mistake, I'll copy this and I'll paste in here. Now, whenever we create a new record, a new customer, this list box will be updated again. So let's go ahead and do that. See, we got the other man. And let's click on create customer again. And this time, when we created a customer, when we are successful, then we should have that record updated here as well. So let's go ahead and create a new record. So we'll create a new record with, let's say, this time Spider-Man. Okay. Now let's say spider.man@email.com. So let's create a button. Watch what happens here. Okay. And there you go. Spider-Man is here. Okay. So we double click and we get or fetch the information from here. That's it. I mean, this is perfect. And this is what, I wanted to do. So now this manage customer, we have created the form. We written VB code behind create button. And today we have written VB code behind update button to update the record. We also added functionality to refresh this list box based on the changes or creation of record. We also added the create customer button here, and this button is going to be working dynamically. So that's the beauty of this VB code. I wanted to demonstrate this to complete this cycle of creation and updation of record and showing and displaying the record. So I think this is it for this video. And for the next video, we are going to start with the products, and then we'll go one by one with this menu, and we'll keep on moving and keep on creating the forms and the VB code. We are going to use that. It is going to be interested in with the passage of time, with the passage of videos. It will be more interesting video series. Anyway, if you're still here, you're a legend. Thank you very much. And if you have learned something, if you like whatever you've seen, make sure that you smash the like button and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you get notification whenever I upload a new video. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one.